Guys, before we start, just a bit of a housekeeping rules that we will be going through the presentation today, and I would request everyone, if they have any questions, feel free to write it in the chat box. We will be taking questions from everyone, but towards the end of the presentation. So this presentation is divided in two parts. First part is with Mr. Usman Obaid Syed. He's a registered migration agent, and followed by that, I will be doing the education side. My name is Jayant Chadha. I'm one of the senior counselors in Sydney office. So we will start now. Usman, let me know if you're ready. We can start.
All good, guys. So, guys, first of all, welcome to our webinar session. And I know it's middle of the day, so thank you for joining us and taking the time out. So, and also we'll try to give you enough knowledge so you can decide your future PR pathways or study pathways for Australia over the weekend. So, yeah, so basically, my name is Usman, and I'm a registered migration agent at ABG. So, Jay, I think let's progress to the next slide, please. Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, I just want to let you all know that these are the agendas we set in for today. So this is like the simplest way you can understand the whole process, whether it's the right courses to take, which course to take, and which university to go to, and basically what are the entry criteria for the courses, and from migration point of view as well. So from the migration point of view, we'll be talking about what do you need to get the migration done as a social worker and as a community worker. Because these are two different pathways, but there's a lot of overlap in them. So we'll discuss both of them separately. Okay. So yeah. So first we'll discuss the how the basically how the occupations work. Then we'll talk about the assessment, whether it's onshore or offshore degree. We'll discuss that as well. And then we'll talk about the migration assessment pathway, like whether you can get the assessment done with your English score or the right qualification or not. And then we'll discuss the state-wise accredited pathways for social work and community worker. We'll divide it into two different parts, even though there's a lot of overlap, but we'll still have to divide them into two separate parts. And at the end, if you have any questions, we are happy to answer anything at the end of the session. If you can't find you the right answer, we'll find it for you. Okay, so let's go to the next slide, please. Yeah. Yeah, so first of all, what is a social worker? That's a most important question, because if you're basically jumping to an occupation, you need to figure out, like, is this something you want to do or not? Like, if you are more interested towards corporate jobs, or you're more working towards like business, marketing, those kind of jobs, then this is not the ideal occupation for you. But then again, if you're the one who want to work on the human side of the job, who want to work with the social services, who want to work in the government, and who want to work in NGOs and other not-for-profit organizations, this is the one of the best pathways to get there. Okay, so it depends on a person, but again, from migration point of view, it's a very attractive field, and at the same time, from let's say a career point of view as well, this is very rewarding. Okay, but again, I always emphasize with all my clients, like, always choose something that you like to do, because you can never be successful unless you are interested in that occupation. Okay, so just to give you understanding, this is what the ASW, the Australian Association of Social Workers, define social workers as. They say they work with individuals, families, groups, and communities. So it's a very wide range of kind of people you'll be dealing with, and you'll be focusing on assisting people with improving their human well-being, working with human rights, and identifying and addressing any external issues. Now, external issues could be anything, whether it's drug-related, alcohol-related, domestic violence, wide homelessness. There's a lot of wide field within it. And then they also, as a social worker, you can take on casework, counseling, advocacy, and community engagement and development. Now, what it means is, there's a lot of fancy words, but if you understand the bottom line, is what it means is basically you'll be working with people, mainly the people who are disadvantaged, or the people who are on the fringe, or the people who are basically in need, or the people who will basically go below the poverty line, or people who would be in a big trouble, or in some kind of a I would say like a simple language, a mess. So we have to get them out from that position and bring them at the right level. So how you do that? So there's a job of case officer. Now these case officers, they consult them, they counsel them, they figure out what's wrong and how we can attach them with the right government services, because a lot of times a lot of government services are available, but people don't know how to reach them. Let's say if there's something for homelessness, but how do you know, how do you figure out, like, who to call, who to email, who to go to. So that's where it comes into effect, that these are the people who connect you to the right services, whether it's government or not for profit, but their job is to be the basically the person who will get your job done, basically, because sometimes you are so disenfranchised that you cannot even uh, basically figure out like who to talk to eventually. So these are the guys who will actually listen to you, solve your issues, and get the practical work done. Okay. Now, also there's a whole different angle in which you don't work on the field, but you work on the policy side. You work with the government, you work with the research bodies, you work with the local bodies, the local councils, that how to make the policies, how to work on the government side of the things, right? So that's another angle. So there are multiple sides of the counter you can work in. So this is actually a very interesting, very broad field actually. And I have met social workers working in hospitals, and I also met social workers working in the field. So there's like different agendas, but again, it comes down to within social work, what do you want to do? Okay. So and also community worker, there's a lot of overlap here. A lot of things they're also doing. But if I have to summarize like what's the difference between a social worker and, because both are community service, social work, both are under the same umbrella technically, right? So if you have to differentiate between the two, the main difference is social worker are the one who will be counseling, who will be looking at the broad things, and the basically when you work as a community worker, you're talking about practical solutions. So whether it's drug related, alcohol related, you direct give them simple simple solutions, right? So that's where you work. So this is like practical side, and then there's a counseling side. So social worker will be working with the community workers to get the job done, basically. So that's the connection between the two. Now let's move to the next slide, please. Yeah. So yeah, so now these are some of the common job titles that they are working on, and I think sometimes if you just look at the names, it will be very self-explanatory. What kind of work will you be doing if you come into this? Aged care worker, case manager, child protection practitioner, counselor, NDIS, meaning National Disability Services, crisis intervention, domestic violence. So these are the kind of field you'll be working on. So these are very interesting, very rewarding, and at the same time, they are very one of the best occupations for PR as well. Okay, so this is actually a very win-win situation for all, for the community, for you, for your migration purposes, and for Australia overall. Now let's move to the next slide, please. Okay, so now social worker. Let's focus on social worker for a second, because we have to, for migration purposes, we have to differentiate between social worker and community worker. Okay, now social worker assessment criteria is very different from the community worker, so we have to discuss separately. Now, within social work, you can use your overseas degree to get the assessment done in Australia. So you don't have to necessarily study in Australia to get the PR through this occupation. You can actually have done a degree back in India, Philippines, Vietnam, but you need to have certain criteria. Now, these are the criteria. The first one, the qualification must be specific qualification in social work. It has to be related. It should not be just MBA or BBA. It should be very relevant to the field. Number two, the qualification must be regarded as a professional social work qualification in the country of training. So meaning if you're working in, let's say, Philippines, then you have to figure out like, is there a social work organization over there? Do they recommend some courses? Are there some degrees, bachelor's or master's or diplomas? They are purpose built for those occupations or not? So if they are, you can prove it, and you can use that qualification to get the assessment in Australia. Third one, the learning outcome of the professional social work qualification is comparable into the learning outcomes that graduates from ASW accredited social work qualification must demonstrate. So basically, they're trying to equate that if you've done Australian degree, will your overseas degree be comparable to it or not? Now, how you do that, it comes down to the components. Like, what have you studied? Okay, so they look at 9 to 10 components, and if you studied that, that will be considered relevant, otherwise not. But again, that is country to country, university to university, degree to degree. So there's literally no one size fit all formula, unfortunately, in this scenario. The fourth criteria, that you have to have done 980 hours of field education in at least 2 placement. Okay, so that's the a tough part, because not everyone has done that. So basically, if you've worked in the industry, you worked in the field directly, then that's something you can actually use. Now, the fifth criteria is that you have to have a high level of English skills. Now, for this, I will be covering in the next slide. So I'll go to the next slide now. Yeah. So now coming to the Australian side of it, the English criteria for both are the same. So the study component is different. So for Australian qualification, the qualification must be accredited with ASW. Okay, so if you're doing social work in Australia, it doesn't, the only course that you should be taking, whether it's bachelor's or master's, is the one which is accredited with ASW. That's very easy to find out. We'll be guiding you with that process shortly. So accreditation should be there. Number two, English requirement must be met. Now, English requirement is slightly tricky in social work. Unfortunately, like it should have been very simple, but they made it slightly complicated. But they've actually tried to make it easy for the applicant. Like if you, even if you don't meet the hard and fast requirement, you can still get the assessment done. So they give you, so that's because of that reason, I think they have added a lot of exemptions and leniency. So first leniency is that you can give two separate tests. Unlike other occupation, when you have to have done the right score in the one attempt, here you two attempts are allowed, but they have to be within the 6 months period of each other. Okay. Second is basically the minimum score should be 7 in each of the components. So you could go, let's say, speaking and listening, and then reading and writing in the next attempt. Okay, you can get 70, but then again, none of the components should be below 6.5 in each of them. Okay, so that's why it's very important that you do the right thing. And in social work, I think someone's asking as well, IELTS is the only test they take, unfortunately. So they do not take PT, other examination like other occupations. So they only stick to IELTS and IELTS academic. So it gets a little tough, I agree, but at the same time, they want to be, and the main reason for this is they want to make sure that you are someone who can actually communicate with the people, because the people you are calling, they're quite disenfranchised, and they're the kind of people who are already on the brink of poverty or some troubles. So you have to be able to communicate with them. So if they can't understand you and you cannot communicate your messaging, then it becomes a real big problem, right? So now let's go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So now let's talk about the community worker. Now, community worker, the main criteria is that you have to have done a accredited qualification, which is accredited with ACWA, EQUA. Now, they give you two choices. You could do a normal diploma of community service, which is not accredited. That's also good. But then if you're already spending time, money, and putting in the effort, then might as well do the right thing, meaning do the accredited course. Okay, because the cost difference is not much, the time difference is not much, everything is pretty much equal. So then it doesn't make much sense to not do the accredited course in community service, especially because it's a diploma. Mostly it can be a bachelor's as well, but mostly it's diploma. So social work, you need to be at a bachelor's or master's level generally, but for community service you could be at a diploma level. So that's why it doesn't it defeats the whole point of doing this if you're going with something, let's say, which is unaccredited. So I still see a lot of people who are doing it. So my advice to them is simple, that please try to make sure it's an accredited qualification, but obviously we'll be guiding you towards that, how to check that and everything. So rest assured. Now the second criteria is the English. The English, you have to have 7 each in IELTS or equivalent in PT or OET or Cambridge examination, but mostly people do IELTS or they go for PT. Okay, so you can do one of them and you should be fine. Now exemption can be taken if you are basically let's say if you're basically studying from the English speaking country. So for example, if you're someone who studied in UK, okay, and your whole schooling has been done in UK and you did a diploma over there, that can be used, right? That is okay, that will get exempted from the English examination. But at the same time, if you had done, let's say, a bachelor's in Australia, even that should be fine. So if you've done a tertiary level education in Australia, that can also make you exempted with the English examination. So community work is a lot easier because the assessing body ACWA is all lot lenient as well. So this is one component. And the third one is that you have to have a relevant employment. Now, with relevant employment, there's a lot of confusion in the industry. Some students come to me and say that, oh, we need to have experience or something. So the simple answer for that is you have to look at your qualification. If your qualification is accredited, that means the field placement, everything is part of the qualification. All right. So you don't need to actually do any kind of actual work, okay, outside the normal study. So you're deemed sufficient. But if you've done a relevant qualification, which is similar to community service, but it is not accredited, then you have to do 1 year experience, and it has to be in the last 4 years. So that's again makes the a good case for doing the right course at the right time. Why waste money in the wrong thing, right? So let's move to the next slide, please. So yeah, so this again, these are common the job titles. So this is again, now one thing I have to point out, that when you talk about community service and social worker, there will be a lot of overlap. Okay, because essentially they are both working on humans. They are both working on people who are disadvantaged. They are both working on people who need help, who need the support, who need the right links to the government, who need the right government programs to help them. So there will be a lot of overlap. But the main point is, the main differentiation you'll always keep in is like the broader level. You'll always be working as a social worker, and at a local and a more, let's say, personal level, a more direct and practical level, getting the practical help across to the person, it would be more as a community worker. So that's the general idea. Now let's move to the next slide, please. So yeah, so now I would let Mr. Jayant, Mr. Jay, he's our senior counselor. So he'll guide you about the study component, like how the studies work and everything, how to get the admission and what to study and what not to study. So he'll guiding about that. Mr. Jay, please take over.
Thank you, Usman. That was really informative. Hi, everyone. Thanks for waiting so patiently. My name is Jay, as Usman already introduced me. I look after the education side for Asia Pacific Group for Sydney office. I will be taking you through both the courses Usman have discussed already, social work as well as community services. The whole idea over here is to just to make sure we aware you about what this is, what are the requirements which Usman has already discussed, and then now going to the education side. So if you are planning to go into a master's of social work, so the entry requirements for social work into a university, you must have a bachelor's degree or equivalent in any discipline other than social work. So when I say other than social work, it can be anything, but there is a little catch that you must have completed at least one full year, which is in social sciences, or which is in social sciences, education, psychology, history, accounting, economics, marketing, sociology, or management. Now it's a very broad field which will be assessed by the university to mark the entry requirements. Normally you need 8 units. This is what they need: minimum 1 year of study full time. So if you do qualify, then you will directly go into masters of social work. English requirement is quite rigid, 7 each in IELTS. So they are quite strict about it, and they accept only IELTS in social work. I do not want to discuss about the prices today, because I want to address or highlight more about the universities which have these courses available. Now, all the states across Australia have these courses available, starting from bachelor's, going all the way till master's with qualifying. So I will be discussing a bit more about it. I don't know who is joining from which state in Australia, but this course is available in the nearby universities wherever you are. ACT, ACU offers this: Bachelor of Social Work, Bachelor of Social Work Honors, and then Masters of Social Work Qualifying. Masters of Social Work Qualifying means that you must have completed that 1 year of full-time course, which we discussed in the previous slide. You must have it as a background to go into the qualifying course. NSW, there are a bunch full of universities where you can go and study. From ACAB being private colleges to going University of Sydney or UNSW, they are all offering social work courses. Now, keep in mind the honors course will be for 4 years, whereas a normal Bachelor of Social Work will be for 3 years. Northern Territory, CDU offers all 3 courses. Queensland, all the universities, they have this course. South Australia, 2 universities. There are 5 universities there, including 3 public universities. 2 of them, they offer this course. Tasmania, Utah's have this course. Victoria, almost, there is a very big list in Victoria, but I just chose 5 over here. Otherwise, the slides would have been for like 20 pages. It's available. Bachelor, master's, or if you want to do honors, it is available. So is in Western Australia. If you have any questions, please write it in the chat box. We will be taking them at the end of the presentation. With community services, as Usman already mentioned, that it is ACWA. I think with ACWA, you need to have 1 year of experience if you're doing it from a non-accredited provider. If you're doing it from an accredited provider, then you need to have no work experience. You can just take your qualification and you can just go directly to ACWA for your skill assessment. For the diploma, you need to have minimum 6 no less than 5.5. If you want to do diploma of community services, which is for 2 years at most of the accredited places. If you want to go for bachelor's, 6 no less than 6 is their requirement. There is no master's in this. People, they normally, if somebody have got a background in community services, they would rather prefer to go and do masters of social work. Just to give you a bit more background, if somebody has already done community services and they seek admission into a master's course, they are eligible to get exemptions based on the previous qualification in community services, because it is highly relevant to social work as well, right? With social work, community services, it is available with all the states. Diploma is available, and these all courses which are on your screen are accredited by ACWA. So I have only picked the universities and colleges which have their name on ACWA accredited course list. It is available NSW, regional NSW, Victoria, regional Victoria, Tasmania, NT. It's available everywhere. So regardless, wherever you go and you do this course, it has a high scope in future that you will be able to settle down and find out, a certain pathway into Australia. So that was my part. I did not discuss about the fees because it's irrelevant, because all the universities, they have got different patterns, different entry requirements, and then different price dollar value. So I did not discuss about that. So this is my part only. It was just to aware you guys what this is. Usman, shall we take the questions?
Yeah, so just before we take on the question, I just want to add one thing, because I think a lot of questions might be regarding that. So I just want to cover it before that. So basically, as you all aware that 1st July, Migration Air starts for the Australian, like all the states and territories. So what happens is basically they gradually announce their requirements and everything. So right now, all the states are in the process of updating their occupation list or announcing it or opening the or nomination applications. So there are a lot of things happening right now. The good thing is generally there's a very positive feeling for migration, and the Labour government is here. The seats have been doubled for 190 and the 491, even 189 is more than doubled. So the visas are there, the seats are available there, and all the states are being very positive right now. So the general idea we're getting from most states, like say Tasmania, which opened up a few days back. We're talking about South Australia, which is about to open up in a couple of days. Victoria just opened up yesterday. NSW will be following suit in the next couple of weeks. So a lot of positivity is in the air right now, which is great, because which shows that the government, whether it's federal government or the state government, they are actually in the mood to invite people. They're actually in the mood to address the shortage of labor. They're actually in the mood to actually get the job done. Simple, right? So things are very positive, but then again, not all states have played the cards. So we have to choose the states which are the safest. Obviously, we cannot be we can give a sweeping statement, but generally, NSW is very safe for community work, so social work, because it's not just now. We've been looking at their invitations for the last couple of years, 4 years, 5 years. They've always been getting the invitations in NSW, sometimes as low as 80, 85 points with the social work. Community service is even lower. And the interesting part is there's still a very low supply. There's still not a lot of people doing these courses. So that's another factor. But community service is excellent. But then a community service, the only disadvantage with community service or welfare work is there is a short-term occupation. So there could be a case that it is there now, it can get removed next year. So that element is always going to be there. But a lot of people still do it because it's much cheaper than social work. So that's why sometimes the preference is to just get the community worker done. But then again, even if it gets removed from one state, is always open in some other state. So there's always around somewhere. So for example, a state like Tasmania or South Australia, they always have something available for either for community worker or social worker, or basically for 190 or 491. So you have those options available. So that's just one thing you have to cover. But and also don't think you're locked in. So for example, if you're studying in, let's say Tasmania, so you're not stuck in Tasmania. Basically, you can get a PR from there, 491 or 190. But let's say something goes wrong, or you can't stay there anymore. You don't have lost a job or something. You can actually move back to NSW and get the job here and get the PR from NSW, or you can move to Victoria or South Australia. But you have to look at the criteria. What do they want? For example, South Australia might want you to have, let's say, a couple of months of experience, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. But that is, again, as Australia is closed as of today, they will be opening soon. So we'll know exactly when, like what requirements they set in. But usually it's generally not too bad, not something impossible to reach. Okay, so that's one thing. So yeah, so guys, we have some time left, I think. So we're happy to take any questions if you have any. So I'll just go with the messages and type in your messages so I can answer one by one. I'll just go with the top first. Okay. So Michelle O'Donnell asked that, can thank you for organizing the session. Will you be sending the copies? So we won't be sending the copies of the slides, basically, obviously, but we would be putting this up on Facebook. So you will be able to access it over there. And NIM case saying it's mandatory to have a social work degree to work in these fields. Interesting question. Not really. You don't have to have a social work degree, but the ASW is actually working on making it a registered occupation. So not anyone can join it. But see, here's the thing. As international students, as international migrants, you always have to remember that there will always be a factor that if you are someone who studies overseas or something, you will need the right occupation, which is accredited by ASW or is ACWA to become a social worker or community worker, because otherwise it's going to be very hard, because to enter a field, you need to have some sort of background, student study background. So that's why if you try to look for jobs, just make sure that you have something in your hand. You have a diploma of community service at least. Because if you don't have that, then it's going to be very hard for you to find a job. Because a lot of people here have done certificate 3 or 4 or something like that, but they're not concentrated on PR. So they have a lot of body of work, but they don't have studies, but they are still fine. They'll have the context and everything, but you will not have that luxury. So you please try to do the right course to get the right job. But yes, you can do the job without the registration. There's no licensing at the moment, which is an opportunity for you. Okay. Now, apart from that, Luana Silveira de Silva has said that test needs to be IELTS. I don't know which occupation you're talking about, but if it's social work, then yes, IELTS has to be there. But if it's community worker, you can go with PT, IELTS, whichever you want. Okay, so iPhone, someone said that, can you please tell about diploma of social work and its requirement for assessment? Thanks. Okay, so
his name is Mohammed Sajjad.
Okay, Mohammed Sajjad. So Mohammed, basically, diploma of social work is basically pretty much on the same level of diploma of community worker. They might as well just do diploma of community worker. Okay, social work diploma is not accredited, so it's not going to help you in career or the PR prospect. So there's not much point to do it, to be very frank with you. So the smart thing would be you do if you're doing a diploma level course, then do it a diploma of community service. That's the simple answer for this. Now, and there's a question, age restriction. Well, there's no age restriction in these things. Basically, you can be a like do this whenever you want. Age is never an issue. To be honest, see, we have to get out of that notion that age is an issue. You could be in your 30s, 40s, you can get in the career, you can still get the PR, you can still get the job done. So age is not a problem. Age is only a problem at certain level. Like I'll give you an example. Like let's say if you're a migrant, okay, and you want to get a 491 or 189 or 190 visa, right? So you have to be at least 45 or under, otherwise you can't get the visa for that. So that's the pretty much the cutoff, 45. So 45 or below, but career-wise, you can do whenever you want, right? So that's one thing. Now, Sybil said, can you share the recording? Yeah, we'll be sharing on Facebook. So please follow us on Facebook, Asia Pacific Group Sydney, and you will be getting access to the videos and everything. Abigail said, I'm from offshore. What is the best school offering Master of Social Work? That's a very good question. Jay, would you want to take this one?
Yes. So if you're from offshore, the first thing which we'll need to see is your background, which is the most important thing, because it's not just a matter of getting the admission, but also the visa. So those two things go hand in hand. I would recommend, I have shared my email ID, sydney@asiapacificgroup.com. Just send across your documents or even a resume. We can have a look and then we can come back to you. There are certain requirements which you can meet while you're offshore, let's say for Masters of Social Work, if you have a relevant background. When I say relevant background, that 1 year, which we explained in the previous slides, if you have one of the experiences over there, or you have a degree over there, then we can definitely help you in getting you the offer for Masters of Social Work directly.
Perfect. But yeah, but there are good universities available, you know, like obviously that depends on which state you're going to, but there certainly like ACU, ACAP, there's certain good universities available. So you can definitely go with those courses, definitely. But we can help you with based on what you have in mind in terms of budget, in the state and the kind of course you want to do. So we can, so just email us at sydney@asiapacificgroup.com. Okay, we'll be able to assist you. Now, Dhruv Alohi is saying that is experience compulsory to get PR in social work 190. Okay, not really. You don't need experience to get the assessment done for this, so that's a good thing. But if you get the experience done, then you will get additional 5 points for 1 year of experience. 20 hours a week for 1 year, you get 5 points. So that is going to help you get the invite much quicker. Okay, but then again, if you have the right point, you have the PT, NATI, education, everything sorted out, age is the right level, you're single or with a skilled partner, you have everything sorted out. In that case, you probably wouldn't even need the experience. Let's put it that way. Now, Zishan is saying, hi, if you have one master degree and you do master social work, still you need 7 years in IELTS, they don't accept PT. No, unfortunately, they don't accept anything like PT or anything like that, unfortunately. Like, they might in the future, but not at the moment. So, Rupal is again asking, which state is the easiest to get 190 social work? Very good question. So the best state, okay, I have to take a little liberty here because as of right now, NSW is closed, Southeast Australia is closed, and other states are also like in the process of opening up. So I'll have to take some liberty, but in my personal opinion and professional opinion, I would say NSW is pretty good, and so South Australia as well. So both states are pretty good. But if you are okay with the not having the right jobs and everything, then you can just go to Tasmania and make it happen. Pretty much everything's open over there. But then again, your lifestyle and your job prospects are very bad in Tasmania, so might as well just stay in South Australia or NSW. That's like one of the best states for this. Okay. Now, Ravi Shal was asking, I'm doing diploma of community service and I've already completed certificate in community support. Please explain PR pathway or 491 visa regional. Well, Ravishal, basically, obviously that's a very wide question, so I'll keep it simple. The pathway for you would be that you complete the course. We have to first see which institute you are studying in. Okay, if it's accredited, then you have to just complete your course, and based on that, you will be and if you have a degree in Australia already, or if you don't have, then you have the right English score. We can get the assessment done, and once the assessment is done, then it will be about basically applying only. That's it. And how you apply for it, you apply the skill assessment with ACWA. Number 2, once that is approved, you apply with EOI, expression of interest, with all the points you have, provided you have decent points, English, NATI, age, partner, everything. 3rd is basically once they've shortlisted you, you apply the nomination application with the state. 4th is once that's approved, you apply for the visa. So that's like the simplest way I can explain your answer, that that's a part of a PR, right? Now let's move to name Casey. They say I'm on my final semester MSWQK and Sydney, so do I need to move regional? I don't think you're doing master social work qualifying in Western Sydney, so that's actually accredited. That's actually the right course. I wouldn't ask you to move anywhere at the moment, especially now when so much uncertainty is there. Let all the states play their cards. Let them put it out there what they want. Let them do this, and then you decide. And especially in the last semester, never advise me, never. So just stick to what you're doing in NSW, in Sydney, and once you finish, then we'll have to have a conversation of where to go. Because if you're in the middle, then I could even recommend other states. But right now, wherever you go, you'll be basically spoiling your case. Let's put it simply. Now, if you go down, Vivi is asking, can I study a course online and complete all the year of studies prior to doing a master's? Well, you can study online, but see, there's a thing like it doesn't make sense. Like a lot of institutes used to allow that in the COVID time. Now they are going back to the normal face-to-face study. So not really practical, to be honest with you. And even if you're doing an Australian degree, if say the only reason to do online studies if you do an Australian degree while you're overseas, and that's just way too expensive, especially if you're living overseas. So practically speaking, it just doesn't make sense, right? If you want something cheap and effective, contact us. We'll guide you with the best pathway, but not like this. Not like this. Okay. So
Usman, can I
yeah,
just add something over here?
Please.
So for people who do not have a direct background in social work, masters of social work, they can go and do a bridging program. So a lot of universities, they offer this bridging program, which is for 1 year. So I'm answering your question indirectly. You can say that if you want to study, yes, there is a pathway. It's called graduate diploma of social work in most of the universities. So you undertake that course for 1 year. Once you finish that, you basically complete the requirement of that 1 year of having a competent background, and then you directly enroll into Masters of Social Work. There is a possibility.
Yep. that I think that
And
should help
Usman,
them.
I just got a question directly right after Vivi's question. I'll just
Yeah.
address this now. So Merita directly messaged me, my friend done Masters of Social Work in overseas. What will be good idea for coming Australia for higher studies or PR?
I think the studies will be the main pathway, and she will have to do a credit course, because the thing is, with overseas course it can work, as I said, it can work, but then she has to have 980 hours of experience, okay, uh, in two different fields, in placement in the field. If she can manage that, great. If she doesn't have a lot of experience, then we have to ask her to study here on a credit course. Yeah, it depends on her experience. If she has the right qualification but experience is not there, again we fall in the same problem. We have to do the right course again now. Okay, now I'll go to AS. They are asking, I have completed my Bachelor of Medical Science degree from University of Wollongong. What are the chances for me to get ACWSS? See, it's medical science. So obviously we have to look at the component what you have studied, but it's not even health or mental health or something like that. So it's very unlikely to get the ACW assessment based on this degree. But obviously we can check the degree components and the transcript, but I doubt it's going to be there, because it's definitely not accredited. That's for sure. But then again, if you're doing this course, if you are, you might have to choose a different occupation altogether, not community worker, not social worker. You have to go probably in public health side or policy analyst. So it's got slightly different side. You have to be, so this yeah, so we'll have to have that a conversation. We have probably have to have on one level, just to figure out like what have you done, been bachelors and everything, and help you with the best PR pathway. Okay, so uh, MD is saying, hi, I finished my MIT, you can do a bachelor. Yes, you can do, see, if you're at MIT in Australia, in Sydney, you can do bachelor, but again, as Jay mentioned, you have to do a bridging program for it. Okay, so that bridging program can be done if you don't have the regular right studies, and that bridging program will lead towards the main course.
That is for Masters of Social Work. If MD, you
Yeah.
want to go for Bachelor of Social Work, yes, you can. Okay, but it's a 4 years course. Keep in
But then
mind.
see, but then we again, sorry, I missed that bachelor part. See, bachelor doesn't make sense in that case, because why would you study 3 or 4 years when you have something which is can be done in 2.5 years or 3 years, right? So that doesn't make sense in that regard. And also, you if you're studying in Australia already, and if you going with from masters to bachelors, the next visa might not be granted. Okay, that with the next student visa, they'll raise the issue that you're downgrading, right? And in a different occupation as well. So that puts you at risk. And secondly, if you're doing this on 485 visa, then yes, you can do, then you don't have to apply any other visa. 485, then do this. So we have to figure out like what's your personal situation, and then we'll guide you particularly. Okay, so I think Meta have already answered in terms of MD saying will okay, you in Wagga Wagga. So yeah, so NS regional is very hard to find these kind of colleges, and very hard. So there might be something. Jay, is there anything available?
Yes. So in
Please.
Wagga Wagga, there is CSU, Charles Sturt
Okay.
University. They offer, even La Trobe offers this course. They are not too far from Wagga Wagga. I'm unable to recall the name of the
Goulburn, or is it?
campus. No, it's Albury. Sorry.
Or Albury? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Got it, yeah.
So Albury also is close to Wagga Wagga. They do offer social work courses over there. CSU, their base is in Wagga. So if you are there, you can try with CSU as well. They offer social work.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I think Jay has already answered. And if you want further information on that, email Jay directly at sydney@asiapacificgroup.com, and he will assist you, case to case basis. Okay, so that's one thing. Um, Yeah, and then I think Abigail asking them, I'm 45 years old, looking in Melbourne, Adelaide, am I on the right track? No, Abigail, this is the problem, because if you're 45 years old, then you will be in a lot of trouble, because the age restriction are there for skill migration. Whether you have 189, 190, or 491, age restriction will always be an issue here. So we have to find an alternate program for you. Let's say a sponsorship from Dama or something like that. So we have to be. This is going to be a problem, because age is going to stop you from getting the PR if you're 45 already. So we have to work on an alternate plan. Yeah. So do contact us. We'll do a consultation session, but we choose something different than the normal plan. So unfortunately, yeah. So Merita said, my name is Merita. I've done my MSW in overseas. I've done 980 hours work. Also, okay, I'm trying to get okay. So I think, Mehta, I think you should, I would say you should have a conversation with us. Come meet me at our office. We are right in the Sydney CBD. We'll have a discussion about, like, because we have to look at the documents, everything. If you seem, from what you've written, you seem to meet the criteria, and we can apply for you. Once you have done your English score, we can apply for you while in Sydney based on your overseas qualification. That can be done. But then again, just meet us, because we need to make sure that, because see, when we advise you something, we arrive based on the information we have. Right now, we have very limited information. I have to see the document, everything in front of me. Then yeah, that definitely can be done. So, and you done diploma of community service in ACT, lived in ACT until February 22 chances. So I think you have a good profile. You can go with community worker or social worker, both sides. But obviously, we have to figure out, like, and if you came back to Sydney after living in Canberra, then we have to figure out, like, in Sydney, is it better for you, or you should have to go back to Canberra? But because these are two different states with completely different set of rules, so you have to figure out. So Sajjad saying that I did master public health in Sydney but not in PR list. Is it right? Is it right for me to do community service diploma? Okay, so Sajjad, the thing is, if you've done public health, unfortunately, public health doesn't lead to anything as such. Okay, it's very tricky, because public health can lead to occupational health and safety advisor, and certain occupation, maybe primary health organization manager, stuff like that, maybe. But then it's tough. It's not right related to PR. So we have to find something which is much easier. And community service, yes, you can do that. That's actually viable. But see, the thing is, we have to, again, as I said to everyone, by the way, so I think the 30, 40 people listening to me right now, always make sure that, because see, we can advise you whenever I see people writing on Facebook, oh, what to do with this, but they don't understand that point, that you need to have a one-on-one consultation with the expert. So if you want migration advice, come to office, book a proper consultation. You'll get it 45 minutes. It will be just me and you will figure out, like, what's the best pathway for you. Whether it's here, there, different pathways, different occupation, different things, but we'll discuss every little thing about your case. Okay. Right now, obviously, the time is short. We have to be simple. Keep it simple. Now, Sajjad, in your case, I would honestly say that you can do community service, but then there might be better occupations for you. So might as well just go to those occupations. So we have to figure out, like, what's the best thing for you. Now, one thing that you keep in mind is your personal situation. Now, here's why everyone needs a PR consultation, because it's very important you figure out, like, where you're lacking or where the problem is, where the pain point is. So you have to figure that out and solve that issue. So when you, like, in this case, for example, I can answer that yes, you can do community service. That's a simple answer. But then again, it doesn't solve his problem. Why? Because we have to figure out whether Sajjad is on a student visa or a 485 visa. The advice will differ. If he's on a student visa and he have to go another student visa based on his new study, they have to figure out, has he completed the course or not? Has he done 6 months or not? Has he just landed in Australia, or is he eligible to change the course or not? And if he's changing the course, then can he go downgrade the course from master's to diploma? So those questions have to be there. So we have to keep our clients safe. So there are a lot of questions like these, and they're based on your situation, we advise you. So if there are two people, Mr. Sajjad and Mr. Sajjad, or Mr. Wasim, but one is on a 485, one is on a student visa, my advice will be different, right? Same profile, but different visas, I can give different advice. So we'll figure out based on your situation. Okay. So there, guys, I think we have exceeded our time already. So we have to proceed the rest of the day. But thank you all for joining, and it was a pleasure talking to you all. And obviously, we are always there for you. You know our email address, you know our offices. Call us, email us, come to our office. We are there for you. That's the main idea. And if community service is not the right occupation for you, that's fine. Leave it. We'll find another thing for you. We have 20, 30 occupations I can recommend you, the good one, but it all depends on your profile. I won't recommend one thing to everyone. I'm not one of those agents who just recommend, oh, everyone do commercial copy. I'm not the type. So we have to figure out what's the right thing for you. And from that, we make the whole plan. Okay. And APG is going to be with you from today, when you first come to office, all the way till you get your citizenship. So we do everything for you, and we can guide you to success. Okay. So anything else, contact us. We are there for you. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining and for taking our time to join us today. Please feel free to send me email, text, call, or if you want to visit us, please feel free. We are here to help you, as Usman said. And just on the very ending note, we have a lot of webinars coming up. It's a series that we are doing all together. As soon as New South Wales will release their list, we will be coming back and doing the webinar in couple of days of its release. So I think that's pretty much from our side. Looking forward to seeing you guys next time. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.